Welcome back, my dear readers. I hope you are eagerly waiting for what is going to happen now when the boys are back from their adventure. So, children, when the boys are back from their adventure, now there's a Tom's dream. That was Tom's great secret, the scheme to return home with his brother pirates and attend their own funerals. So, children, attending your own funeral, isn't it a big adventure? है ना? So they sneaked into the town in the early hours of Sunday morning and finished their sleep in the gallery of the church. So you must be wondering how they reached the church. So here it is told that they came into the town secretly early morning, in the early morning, in the sun on Sunday, in the early hours, means early in the morning, and they finished their sleep and they completed their sleep. जो रात को जागते रहे, they completed their sleep in the gallery of the church. चर्च की गैलरी में वो सो गए आके. At breakfast on Monday morning, Aunt Polly and Mary were very loving to Tom and were very attentive to him. Then Aunt Polly said, "Well, Tom, I won't say it wasn't a fine joke, what you did, but surely it was hard-hearted of you to let me suffer like this." So, breakfast table पर Aunt Polly और Mary उसको कुछ ज़्यादा ही प्यार कर रहे थे. And Aunt Polly बोली कि it was a good joke, but तुम्हें लगा नहीं कि तुम मेरे साथ बहुत hard-hearted काम कर रहे हो, कि मुझे ऐसा सफ़र करने के लिए छोड़ गए तुम. So if you could come over for your own funeral, you could have come over and given me some hint that you were not dead. I had hoped you loved me that much. अब मामा कहती हैं, आंट पॉली कहती हैं कि अगर तुम अपनी फ्यूनरल के लिए आ सकते थे तो तुम आकर के मुझे हिंट भी तो दे सकते थे कि आई एम अलाइव. मुझे लगता कि यू लव मी. Tom felt very guilty. He had come to tell her he was safe and even written to her a note telling her that also. So you must be remembering when he came to the house and he was hiding under the bed that time when Aunt Polly was asleep. He tried to put something, take out something from his pocket and keep it near Aunt Polly, but he could not. So he said he was feeling guilty because he had come. But instead of confessing this, Tom made up a story about a dream he had on Jackson's Island. So, क्या है कि बजाय इसके कि वो बताता कि मैं आया था, what he did, he made another story. एक और story बनाई उसने. Let's see what story he made. Now, why aunt? Now he said that I dreamt of you. मुझे आपका सपना आया था. Why aunt? I dreamt about you on Wednesday night. You and Mary and Sid and Joe's mother were sitting here, crying and saying how much you missed us. And you said that I wasn't bad, only mischievous and harum-scarum. Now, he is again building up a story that actually he came that night and he's saying to Aunt Polly कि मुझे तो सपना आया था and in my dream I saw that it was Wednesday night and you, Mary, Sid and Joe's mother were sitting here and you were crying and saying and you were missing me and you were also talking about me that I'm not a bad boy and only I was mischievous and some other things also. And so I did. Well, goodness gracious, go on, Tom, said Aunt Polly, full of wonder. Now Aunt Polly thought that, wow, how much he loved me. He dreamt about what we were doing here. And Tom gave such a perfectly detailed account of the evening that Aunt Polly was truly amazed. She thought he had a special gift and hugged him and presented him with the big apple. Then the children left for school. So उसने same जो यहाँ पर देखा था वो उसको बोला कि मैंने सपने में देखा and Aunt Polly was full of love for him and she was truly amazed कि wow how much he loves me, how much a bond we have here, that whatever was happening here he was watching it in his dreams. Now she is filled with love for her child. Now Next part is jealousy. What a hero Tom had become now. He swaggered instead of skipping and prancing. Now क्या होता है जब आप hero बन जाते हो, you become a hero, you move like with some arrogant in a arrogant way you walk. The same way Tom was also walking arrogantly in the streets. He pretended not to see or overhear admiring looks and remarks as he passed others, but they were food and drink to him. See, ऐसे pretend कर रहा था जैसे ना मैं लोगों को देख रहा हूँ ना मैं उनकी बात सुन रहा हूँ. But whatever the other people, they were admiring this boy and they were talking about this boy, they were food and drink to him. Means उसको ये सब सुनने में बहुत मजा आ रहा था. He was just enjoying these things. The smaller boys flocked at his heels, proud to be seen with him. अब छोटे जो boys थे एकदम उसके साथ साथ फटाफट से उसके साथ साथ चल देते थे, and they felt proud कि हम उसके साथ चल रहे हैं, उसके साथ में देखे जा रहे हैं. So, and the older ones consumed with envy at his sun-tanned skin and sudden fame. अब जो older ones थे, older boys थे, they were jealous of him. कि एक तो काला सा है, ये sun-tanned skin है इसकी, and he has become so famous. The other children made so much fuss over Tom and Joe that the two of them quickly became very struck up. अब दूसरे लोग जो थे एकदम से उसके बारे में इतनी ज़्यादा बातें करने लगते थे, और जब वो बात करते थे, they quickly started telling their story. They told and retold their adventures to rapt listeners. Means वो अपनी story बार बार बताते थे listeners को attract करने के लिए. So Tom decided he could be independent of Becky Thatcher now. उसको लगा कि मैं Becky Thatcher के control में नहीं हूँ. I'm independent of her. I don't love him even. It was enough to be a hero and famous. वो कहता hero बन गया हूँ मैं, famous बन गया हूँ, इससे ज़्यादा और क्या चाहिए मुझे? Let the girl be aside. Now, he pretended not to see when she arrived. He moved away and joined a group of boys and girls and began to talk. अब जब वो Becky आती है, so he shows that he is avoiding her, right? Soon he saw that she was tripping gaily back and forth, chasing schoolmates and screaming with laughter. वो बहुत जल्दी notice करता है कि Becky is just moving here and there lightly with others. Even she is not bothering him. It made him all the more determined to ignore her. Now, due to this, he is now more determined कि अब मैं इसको और ज़्यादा ignore करूँगा. She looked now and then at Tom and saw that he was talking more to Amy Lawrence than to anyone else. तो किसी को चढ़ाने के लिए हम किसी और से बात करने लग जाते हैं ना. The same way, to annoy her, to make her jealous. Now, whenever she looked at him, whenever Becky looked at Tom started giving more importance to Amy Lawrence, her old girlfriend. This caused her to feel a pang, and she grew disturbed. अब उसके pang means she felt hurt at heart, and she grew disturbed. Filled with jealousy, she announced a picnic party to be held in the vacations. Eagerly, all the children began to beg for invitations. All except Tom and Amy Lawrence. He just turned coolly away and took Amy with him. अब क्या हुआ कि उसने बेकी ने शी अनाउंस्ड अ पिकनिक पार्टी. जेलस में आकर उसने एक पिकनिक पार्टी अनाउंस कर दी कि हमें पिकनिक पार्टी करेंगे. एंड शी गेव इन्विटेशन टू एवरीवन एक्सेप्ट टॉम एंड एमी. बट टॉम ने क्या किया? ही अगेन ओवरलुक दीज थिंग्स. ओके, नहीं बुलाते तो ना बुलाए. ही जस्ट टर्न कूलली अवे. मीन्स जिसमें बिल्कुल भी फ्रेंडलीनेस नहीं है, इस वे में वो एमी को लेकर के वहाँ से चला गया. इससे क्या हुआ? Tears came to Becky's eyes. अब बेकी को फिर से बहुत हर्ट हो गई वो. Now, but she hid them and went on chattering. अब eyes में tears आ रहे थे, बातें करती रही. She tried to hide her tears. As soon as she could, she got away and had a good cry. जल्दी, ये द नहीं है, she है. वो फटाफट से वहाँ से चली गई एंड शी हैड अ गुड क्राई, बहुत रोई. हर प्राइड वॉज wounded एंड शी डिसाइडेड टू गेट इवन विद टॉम. उसके मीन्स हर्ट बहुत हो गई, बहुत ज़्यादा हर्ट हो गई एंड शी ट्राइड दैट शी शुड हैव एन अगेन शी शुड बी मेक फ्रेंड्स विद टॉम. At recess, Tom kept up his flirtation with Amy, checking to make sure that Becky saw that. अब दूसरे को jealous feel कराने के लिए, Becky को jealous feel कराने के लिए, again Tom kept on flirting with Amy at recess. Then suddenly he saw a sight that filled him with anger. फिर उसने कुछ ऐसा देखा जिससे उसको एकदम से गुस्सा आ गया. What was that? Becky was sitting cozily on a little bench behind the school. अब बेकी जो है स्कूल के पिछली साइड में बड़ी कोजिली बैठी हुई है. सी कैसे बैठी हुई है? She is sitting with Alfred Temple, another boy, and they are looking at a picture book. Both of them are enjoying the picture book. Jealousy ran red hot through Tom's veins. अब टॉम के अंदर से एकदम से क्या हुआ, बहुत जेलसी निकली. He was so jealous. He began to call himself a fool and wanted to cry with irritation at what he had done. अब क्या हुआ कि उसको लगा कि मैंने तो बहुत गलत कर दिया. अब मुझे बेकी को इतना इग्नोर नहीं करना चाहिए था. So now by noon he was so miserable that he could not bear it anymore and fled home. दोपहर तक तो क्या हुआ, उसको इतना गुस्सा आ गया, he could not tolerate, even tolerate भी नहीं कर पाया और वो फटाफट से घर चला गया. Becky continued looking at the picture book with Alfred, but when she saw there was no Tom to provoke, she began to grow miserable. Till at last she burst into tears and walked away. अब क्या हुआ? Means she also loved him and Tom also loved Becky. So now Becky, she was just trying to make him jealous. So when she saw that Tom was not there, she left the boy, left the book and walked away, and again she was hurt at heart. Now Alfred tried to cheer her up, but she snapped at him and said, अब Alfred को तो समझ ही नहीं आया. He was just being used by her. He tried to make her happy, but she broke out suddenly at him and said, go away and leave me alone. Can't you? I hate you. So जैसे गर्ल्स करती हैं, कि उसने बोला कि go away. I hate you. I don't love you at all. I was just playing with you. So he was amazed and wondered what he had done to annoy Becky. So वो एकदम हैरान होते, मैंने क्या किया ऐसा, मुझे ऐसे क्यों बोल रही है ये? Then he guessed the truth, and this made him both angry and humiliated. अब उसको जब सच पता चला तो उसको बहुत गुस्सा आया कि she was just using me. मेरी इंसल्ट है. This is my insult. He decided to get even with Tom somehow. उसको लगा कि मुझे टॉम से बात करनी चाहिए. He went to the classroom and found Tom's spelling book lying on the desk. Alfred opened the lesson for the afternoon and poured ink all over the page. अब टॉम वो अंदर क्लासरूम में जाता है और देखता है कि टॉम की स्पेलिंग बुक पड़ी हुई है डेस्क पे, और जाकर के उसको खोलता है और उसके ऊपर इंक डाल देता है. Now what happens? Let's see. See, you can see the spoiled page with the ink. Becky glanced in at the window and saw the whole thing. At first she decided to tell Tom, but then she remembered how Tom had treated her and she grew angry again. She resolved to let him get whipped and to hate him forever. अब खिड़की में से बेकी उसको देख लेती है and she tried. वो सोचती है कि मैं बताती हूँ टॉम को जाके, but then she remembered, उसको याद आता है कि कैसे Tom was treating me and this made him again angry. अब उसे लगा कि पढ़ने दो इसको जो मार पड़ती है. I hate him. Now Tom wins Aunt Polly's heart. Let's see how. Tom arrived home in a dreary mood. बड़े उदास सा घर आ गया. The first words that his aunt spoke to him showed that there were bad times ahead. अब जो पहले आते ही Aunt Polly ने Tom से बोला, उसको लगा अब तो मेरी शामत आ गई. What she said? Tom, I have a notion to skin you alive, cried Aunt Polly. Aunt Polly कहती, I have a notion to skin you alive means I want to punish you. Auntie, what have I done? अब मैंने क्या किया? Done? You have done enough. Here I go over to Mrs. Harper's, trusting like an old softy, expecting her to believe all that nonsense about your dream, and she tells me that Joe had already told her what happened. क्या हुआ? वो बोली कि मैं मिसेस हार्पर के यहाँ गई थी और वहाँ जाके मैं बड़े आराम से तुम्हारा ड्रीम सुनाने लगी, एंड देन शी टोल्ड मी दैट दिस वाज ट्रू, नॉट अ ड्रीम. He had came. You had no dream at all. You were here and heard all the talk we had that night. It makes me feel so bad to think you could let me make such a fool of myself in front of Mrs. Harper's and never say a word. मेरी इतनी इंसल्ट हुई कि तुम यहाँ पर भी मुझसे झूठ बोल गए. Tom hung his head in shame. अब मुंह लटक जाता उसका. He could not think of anything to say for a moment. Then he tried to explain that he had written that night to tell her that he was still alive and well. But Aunt Polly would not believe him. अब उसको लगता है कि मैंने तो लिखा था उनको बताने के लिए, बट अब वो मुझ पर विश्वास थोड़े ना करेंगी. Then उसने बोला भी कि आंट मैंने लिखा था आपको बताने के लिए, बट नाउ यू विल नॉट बिलीव मी. देन वाई डिडंट यू टेल मी चाइल्ड, शी आस्क्ड हिम. बोली फिर मुझे क्यों नहीं बताया तुमने? व्हेन आई हर्ड यू टॉकिंग अबाउट माई फ्यूनरल आई जस्ट गॉट फुल ऑफ द आइडिया ऑफ कमिंग एंड हाइडिंग इन द चर्च एंड आई कुड नॉट बेयर टू स्पॉइल इट, सो आई पुट द बाग बैक इन माई पॉकेट एंड लेफ्ट. अब वो बोला कि मैं आपको बताने वाला था, लेकिन जब मैंने सुना अपनी फ्यूनरल के बारे में तो एन आइडिया स्ट्रक माई माइंड. मेरे माइंड में आइडिया आया कि मैं वहाँ पर चर्च में आकर के छुप जाऊँगा और फिर मैं आई विल एन्जॉय माई फ्यूनरल. तो इसलिए मैंने दोबारा से बाग अपनी पॉकेट में डाल ली. आई विश नाउ that you had woken up when I kissed you, said poor Tom sorrowfully. अब टॉम कहता है कि I wish कि आप उस टाइम उठ जाती जब मैं आपको किस करके गया था. The hard lines on his aunt's face relaxed and a sudden tenderness came to her eyes. So out of emotions, जब उसने बोला कि मैंने आपको किस किया था, तो Aunt Polly she was full of tenderness now. Are you sure you kissed me, Tom? क्या तुमने सच में मुझे किस किया था? I did, auntie. I loved you so. And you lay there mourning and I was so sorry. बोला मैंने आपको किस किया था. I loved you. But you were so sad. You were just sleeping and mourning. तुम बहुत उदास थी ममा. Aunt was just like mama to him. So I'm so sorry for that. The words sounded true, but she couldn't be sure. अब आंट को लग रहा था कि ये सच बोल रहा है, but still she was not sure. When Tom left for school, she took out the jacket Tom had worn up on his trip. Twice she put her hand into the pocket and withdrew it. अब जब स्कूल चला गया वो, तो आंट ने क्या किया, वो जैकेट उठाई जो वो पहनकर उस टाइम गया था जब वो ट्रिप पर गया था, एंड 2 बार पॉकेट में हाथ डाला और फिर बाहर निकाल लिया. She wanted so much to believe that Tom had told her the truth. वो चाहती थी कि जो टॉम बोल रहा है वो सच हो, but she could not bear it if he had been lying again. कहती है मैं दोबारा अगर उसने मुझसे झूठ बोला हुआ तो I cannot tolerate. On the 3rd try, she pulled out a piece of bark and read it through eyes that streamed with tears and said. अब क्या हुआ, 3rd टाइम जब उन्होंने पॉकेट में हाथ डाला तो उनको पीस ऑफ बार्क मिल गया जिसके ऊपर he had written, he had confessed. And after reading it, her eyes filled with tears and she said, I could forget the boy now if he had committed a million sins. अब जैसे ममा बहुत प्यार से भर जाती हैं, so mama says कि you can see here, and her eyes are filled with tears. She said that I can forgive millions of his sins. उसकी कितनी सारे मैं गलतियाँ माफ़ कर सकती हूँ उसकी इस हरकत पे. Now guilt. Soon it was summer and then Tom caught the measles. For 2 long weeks he lay a prisoner in bed. अब क्या हुआ कि समर आ गई और उसको measles हो गए टॉम को, and he had to lay in the bed for 2 weeks. He was very ill and was interested in nothing. Then instead of getting steadily better, He improved only to fall ill again and spent 3 more weeks in bed. अब क्या हुआ, बहुत बीमार हो गया, किसी चीज़ में इंटरेस्ट नहीं लेता था. अब वो जल्दी से ठीक होने के बजाय वो चाहता है कि मैं दोबारा से बीमार हो जाऊं और 3 और वीक्स के लिए मैं बेड में रहूं. Then came the news that spread excitement through the whole village. अब ऐसी कौन सी न्यूज़ आ गई जिससे पूरे विलेज में एक्साइटमेंट हो गई? What was the news? That was Muff Potter's murder trial was about to begin. अब मफ पॉटर का मर्डर का ट्रायल जो था कोर्ट में स्टार्ट होने वाला था. Now poor Tom could not escape this topic of conversation anywhere. अब poor Tom को पता था, he knew all the truth and he wanted to attend the trial. Every mention of it sent shudders down his spine. जब भी वो इसके बारे में सुनता था, he felt extremely worried कि अब क्या होगा. He took Huck aside to a lonely place to talk with him. It would be some relief to be able to talk about it for a little while. He also wanted to be sure that Huck had kept their secret. अब फटाफट से उसने क्या किया, called Huck और उससे secretly बात की, and he wanted to know कि इसने अभी तक किसी को बताया तो नहीं है. So let's see their conversation here. Huck, have you ever told anybody about that? About what? You know what? Oh, of course I haven't. Not a word? Not a word, I promise. So क्या है, उससे पूछते हैं कि तुमने किसी को बताया तो नहीं है, तो वो बोलता है no, not at all. Now, Tom felt more comfortable, but just to make sure, he insisted that they swore again never to tell anyone their dreadful secret. They talked about Muff Potter and wished they could get him out, but I've heard people say that they would lynch him if he was set free, said Tom. Now, क्या है कि they are feeling more comfortable कि हमने किसी को बताया नहीं है, तो they are swearing कि हम किसी को बताएंगे भी नहीं, because वो बात कर रहे हैं कि मफ पॉटर के बारे में बात करें, एंड दे वांटेड हिम टू बी फ्री ऑल्सो. वो चाहते थे कि वो फ्री भी हो जाए, लेकिन उन्होंने सुना कि वो लोग उसको मार देंगे अगर वो फ्री भी हो गया, तो अगर वो छूट गया ना तो उसको मार देंगे. The boys had a long talk, but it brought them little comfort. बात की उन्होंने, थोड़ा सा पद हल्का हुआ. They did as they had often done before, went to silk grating and grave. अब वो क्या है, फटाफट मतलब बात करने के लिए वो कहाँ जाते हैं कि ग्रेवयार्ड में, went to the cell grating and gave Porter some tobacco and matches. फिर वहीं सेल में जाते हैं और वहाँ पर जाकर पॉटर को कुछ टबेको और मैचेस देकर आते हैं. He was on the ground floor and there were no guards. He was always so thankful for their gifts and it made their consciences hurt more. They felt like cowards. Tom went home miserable and his dream that night was full of horror. अब क्या है कि फिर से वो सेल में जाते हैं, उसको थोड़ी सी टबेको मैचेस देकर आते हैं, and he felt thankful to these boys. और जब भी वो thankful होता है, he felt hurt. मीन्स उनकी कॉन्शियस उनको हर्ट करती है कि हम गलत कर रहे हैं. वी आर लाइक कावर्ड्स. नाउ अब रात को उसको ऐसा डरावना सपना आता है. लेट्स सी व्हाट वाज द ड्रीम. यू कैन सी हियर. द नेक्स्ट 2 days Tom hung around the courtroom drawn by an irresistible impulse to go in. But he forced himself to stay out. It was the same with Huck. अब अगले 2 दिन क्या होता है, जब कोर्ट रूम के अंदर ट्रायल चल रहा है, तो he wants to go inside but he couldn't. Same was with Huck also. Now then came the day the jury was to make its decision. All the villagers flocked to the courtroom. The jury and the judge came in and took their places. अब क्या है, दिन आ गया जब क्या है, मेन डिसीजन होना है. अब पॉटर, pale, timid and hopeless, was brought in with chains upon him. Injun Joe was also there. So what happened? This Potter was brought into the courtroom and he was tied with chains, and Injun Joe was also there. A few witnesses were called, but Porter's attorney did not question their statements. अब क्या है, बहुत सारे विटनेसेस बुलाए गए, लेकिन पॉटर का जो वकील था, अटॉर्नीज वकील, लॉयर, उसने कोई भी क्वेश्चन नहीं किया. Instead, he announced that he had an important new witness and wanted to change Porter's plea not guilty. अब पॉटर के लॉयर ने बोला कि मैंने इनसे कोई क्वेश्चंस नहीं करने हैं इन विटनेसेस से. मेरे पास एक इम्पॉर्टेंट न्यू विटनेस है that is going to change the whole case, which is going to prove that Porter is not guilty at all. He is not the culprit. Call Tom Sawyer, he told the clerk. Now he told the clerk to call Tom Sawyer. Puzzled amazement appeared on every face, including Porter's. अब सब लोग हैरान हो गए. All eyes were fixed on Tom as he took the stand. He was scared, but he took the oaths. अब क्या हुआ? Tom को बुलाया गया and he took the oath. Thomas Sawyer, where were you on the 17th of June, about the hour of midnight, asked Porter's attorney. अब Porter's का lawyer पूछता है कि where were you on the 17th of June midnight? Tom looked at Injun Joe's iron face and he could not speak. अब इंजन जो के फेस की तरफ देखता है तो वो बोल नहीं पाता है कुछ. Now, the audience waited breathlessly, but the words refused to come. सब ऑडियंस जो हैं चाह रहे हैं कि ये कुछ बोले, लेकिन कुछ नहीं बोल पा रहा है. Then, after a few moments, however, he got a little of his courage back and began to speak. थोड़ी देर बाद वो हिम्मत जुटाता है और बोलना शुरू करता है. He told them how and why he and Huck had been in the cemetery that fateful night. अब वो बताते हैं कि हम क्यों और कैसे cemetery में गए उस रात को, and describe the details of the murder. As he told them how Injun Joe jumped on the doctor with the knife, Injun Joe sprang to his feet and tore his way through the crowd to escape through the window. अब जैसे ही टॉम ने बताया कि कैसे इंजन जो डॉक्टर के ऊपर जंप किया with the knife, and at the very moment you can see here Injun Joe jumped out of the window. कोर्ट विंडो से जंप कर गया बाहर. मफ पॉटर was set free and Tom became glittering hero once more. अब क्या हुआ? फिर से मफ पॉटर को छोड़ दिया गया and Tom became a hero again. But at night he had nightmares of meeting Injun Joe again. रात को फिर उसको इंजन जो के सपने आने लगे. He was terrified of venturing out after dark. उसको लग रहा था कि मुझे अंधेरे में कोई एक रिस्की सी जर्नी में रन कर रहा हूँ. पुअर हक वॉज इन द स्कैर्ड स्टेट ऑफ टेरर एंड रेचेडनेस. पुअर हक भी है, वो भी डरा हुआ है सपने में. टॉम टोल्ड द होल स्टोरी टू द लॉयर द नाइट बिफोर द डे ऑफ द ट्रायल. ऐसा क्यों हुआ? बिकॉज टॉम ने पूरी स्टोरी ट्रायल से एक रात पहले लॉयर को जाकर बता दी थी. हक वॉज टायर्ड, but Tom's conscience could not carry the heavy burden of the secret anymore. They were now afraid that Injun Joe would never be caught and that they would never be safe again until the man was dead and they had seen his corpse. अब क्या है कि हक जो है, हक भी डरा हुआ है, but Tom की conscience जो है वो allow नहीं कर रही थी कि मैं ना बताऊं. तो there was a heavy burden of the secret in his heart, and now these boys were afraid now कि जब तक ये पकड़ा नहीं जाता, इसकी कॉर्प्स नहीं देख लेते, डेड बॉडी हम नहीं देख लेते, तब तक हमें डर लगा रहेगा कि ये हमें मार देगा. Rewards were offered to Injun Joe's capture. A detective from a big town was hired, but no trace of the villain was found. The days drifted on, and slowly Tom and Huck began to relax. इंजन जो को पकड़ने के लिए रिवॉर्ड्स रखे गए, डिटेक्टिव्स भी लगाए गए, लेकिन वो नहीं मिला. और जब काफ़ी दिन तक नहीं मिला, टॉम एंड हक जो था वो रिलैक्स्ड हो गया. नाउ चिल्ड्रन, विल मीट, my dear readers, we'll meet with the 18th part very soon. Till then, keep on listening, keep on encouraging me, and till then, goodbye.